World Wide Web. So I am Cypher Sigma Screen Time, and yes, this is a Monday. And as you well know of last week, obviously we finished the collection in depth. So we get into this new series, Box Office Bombs. So this is a new idea I have, and we will play it out, and you can kind of see the movie is mentioned. So obviously we will be featuring this, The Matrix Resurrection, the fourth one in the franchise. So when I say box office bombs, this is where a movie is financially deemed loss, obviously, and quite a bad loss in comparison to maybe others in the franchise, unless it's a standalone one, and I will go into that. I will go into a few things about the movie, about why the idea came about, who it came about, what involved and stuff like that, and then I'll throw a few theories of what I thought they maybe should have done, how they could have changed it. This is me looking into the movie. I've looked into, been online, seen reviews, seen what people said, and taken all these comments into consideration when I've done this video. So as I said, this is the fourth Matrix movie. This made £159 million worldwide on a budget of 190. So it made a loss just budget-wise of £31 million or dollars, probably how it is, taken into consideration. If you take the marketing budget, which isn't in that, they estimated that it's 50 million plus loss. So not only did it lose the studio's 50 million, that it's the worst performing Matrix movie, because we've had three other ones that have made loads of money. So there we go. That is why it is on this list. So I'll put it there. So yes, the whole point of this is obviously then to discuss the movie itself. So I have seen the movie and I don't rate it that well. I feel there are a lot of issues with it. So anybody who doesn't know the background of this and something, that they made the Matrix trilogy. The Matrix trilogy is there to basically, it is humans. Humans are being used as batteries. They are lit by these androids and they are put in a sleep. Just being put in a normal sleep does not make them produce enough energy. So you put them inside of a matrix, this virtuality world, and basically this is, then they produce more energy, and this is what these robots do. The story revolves around Neo, the One, him escaping with the help of other characters like Trinity and Morpheus, and him rebelling against it and where that rebellion takes them. This is a cycle that has happened. It has happened 5 times. The Matrix trilogy is based on that 6th cycle, and Neo is the 6th one to emerge from that. This is what we find out from the architect, and unfortunately at the end of the 3rd film, Neo and Trinity are both killed, or what are deemed to be killed, and they disappear into the sunset, and unfortunately the world is failed. Basically the humans do not survive. This was done by the Wachowskis, so they were a set of brothers when the first trilogy came about. They have both transitioned due to personal reasons, and I'm not saying that has an impact. There are undertones that people have tried to link it to, but I'm going to try and stay away from that now. Now, this is, I would probably say, the Wachowskis' biggest movie to date that they have done. Now, when they transitioned, one of them decided that they wanted to do a newer movie. The reason for is because they feel that the characters of Neo and Trinity were a representation of their parents, and unfortunately their parents and a close friend to the now sisters had passed, and they wanted to honour them in some way, and that was how this all came about, of a new Matrix movie by the Wachowskis. And obviously one only returns, so whenever you have a partnership, you are always going to be 50% less. Now, whether one is the real brains behind it and can deal with that, the other one, we will never know. But Lana Wachowski came up with the story, came up with the script, worked with the studios, and then we have this new iteration. The new iteration sees Neo and Trinity not dead, still plugged into the Matrix, and I think it's about 50 years after the previous films. They escape, or Neo escapes his prison with the help of a kind of CG Morpheus character and some new rebels that have come from the new Zion place. So Zion is the kind of human remains in the technological world where the humans are hiding, so they have this new place now. And basically Neo escapes, and then he goes back and gets Trinity, and then they kind of find out the mastermind behind the new kind of Matrix reality and stuff. Some people like it, some people hate it. I say it's very mixed reviews. A lot of people don't feel it's in setting with the new tone, and I kind of agree that. But this is where we get into it and dive into the movie. So if anybody has watched the movies, you will know you have the red pill and you had the blue pill. So the blue pill is you stay the same, and the red pill is you escape the matrix. And I think this is where you have it. So if you've seen the trilogy and you know what the movies are about, where would you go with a continuation? Now, the studio is more or less likely going to decide we want to bring existing characters back. We want to have that kind of connection. This is the way Hollywood works at this time. This is the way that basically a franchises or franchise movies or reboots and stuff are getting there, because they're like, well, people are already related to these characters, so people will go and see it. And you're right, a lot of people, if this wasn't a Matrix movie, probably may not have seen it, you know, if you change the names and the characters, because the story is quite different. But yeah, essentially you could have had, because this is a cycle, and obviously we saw the 6th cycle, they could have started with a new cycle. They could have gone, right, let's go the red pill, let's escape from Neo and that. And I kind of think of, you know, Eon. So basically the one is Neo is abbreviation of one, so he could have had Eon, even though it's an electric company, he could have been a new person, or he could have been a woman, or it could have been anybody. But you could have gone for a new cycle and maybe had references to Trinity, Morpheus and everybody else. Unfortunately, they decided that wasn't not the case because of the reasons that I've stated. So you start off with it. So where do you go? Everyone is more or less dead except for Morpheus. How do you bring these characters back? The only way to bring them back is that the robots have kept these 2 characters alive in some shape or form. I totally understand that. How this movie kind of fails, I think, in the first section of it, is they've kind of been wiped, put back into the Matrix to kind of go with a different angle, so the robots can understand how they got so powerful. Now, I understand the whole point of having, you know, you kind of killing these superhumans and then go, well, we need to figure them out. Why they would plug them back into the Matrix where they're really powerful and have that possible of a connection seems really antiquated, I would say, to me. You know, you have these robots that, yes, they maybe be smug, or there's somebody behind the scenes that pulling all the strings and robots, but they're calculated. And I would think, well, they put them in the Matrix and they wreaked havoc the first 3 movies, or the 6th cycle, and this is a repeated cycle, that yes, we would want to analyze them, but I wouldn't necessarily have them in the Matrix. Why are they not in a self-contained area outside of it? That's where I would have gone. That way you would feature them, but probably have them as lesser characters within this, but having their mythology and stuff like that. Obviously, you're 50 years on, they didn't call Lawrence Fishburne back. There's never been an official reason why that, and this is part of the reason they substituted characters out with new actors, which I don't think work. So Morpheus and Agent Smith are both recasting this. Again, the original actors have both said they don't know the reasons why, or they've not given a valid reasons why they weren't called back into this story. So we can only theorise on that. I would imagine that for either cost or other reasons, because of this time jump, they wanted to have some fresh faces. I don't mind that. The Wachowskis, if you've ever watched them, they have a series called Sensei. They do pull a few members from this series into it. You do have a few other actors and actresses playing roles, but these are all minor roles that kind of get overlooked. And this is, again, another thing that lacked. If anybody has seen the original movie, the team that they made up of Morpheus and having these characters work so well, the few other characters that, like, I can't remember the guy who guarded the Keymaster and that. There are a few that are really, really solid, thought out characters, well acted, and this is where in the newest iteration, this 4, you have this one tech guy, and then you kind of have this female, almost kind of matrixy person, and they show like the super jumps and stuff like that, and they just don't have enough personality and distinction and kind of enough about them to set themselves apart from this world. And this is the problem. Like, they should have started, in my eyes, and from what I've read and kind of stuff, it kind of needed to be like, you have these, this is the Matrix, it's 50 years on, it's because of Trinity and Morpheus, Trinity and Trinity and Neo haven't aged, so let's age them all up. Let's bring in new people. Humans are obviously still escaping from the Matrix, so there are these rogue teams. Let's put it in that. Let's have a few ships. Let's have them going into the Matrix, having stealing data, having stealing, trying to figure out another weakness. This is possibly going to lead on to maybe the next rebellion cycle and stuff like this. It could be at this point of when they're going through these missions and showing a lot of these characters with more characteristics and backstory, and building on and seeing them all work together as a really good kind of SWAT team going into these places, kind of like the originals did when they went into the building or something. And you don't necessarily have to have agents. Why have agents still around? Why have they not evolved into something else? But anyway, but this is what they do, and it could be down to all this them stealing stuff, coming in and out like thieves in the night and something, and they come across kind of a data trail that leads them to there's some sort of prison in one of the main buildings, and this is where they need to get to. Kind of almost links in with what they've got, but obviously with Trinity and that off the grid, they're kind of in a self-contained world, and you don't really need to feature much. Having Neo as a computer game designer and the Matrix being a game, I thought was very silly, and his psychiatrist, obviously Neil Patrick Harris being a mastermind, I didn't think none of that worked. What did work, there were certain elements and certain scenes where everyone's on their phone and something, and I think having them engaged in machines, even though they're inside a machine themselves, was very clever, just not done effectively enough. So that's how I would essentially premise the story, and then it is these newer people trying to rescue Trinity and Neo, and obviously then they would succeed at some point. Whether they would have the superpowers that they have, they decided to split the superpowers, which again, when you have a director who's trying to honour her parents and stuff like this, I can get why the powers were split. But why? Yeah, and it seemed very weird that Neo can now repel and Trinity can fly and stuff, and it's that they didn't have those powers when they'd done up something's happens, and that was never explained. The same way they recast the people they did bring back. So with Wenchi, he's very old and decrepit, and you have these beings that are kind of shunned from the Matrix. None of that is kind of explained and looks really weird. But also in this scene, you have the new Agent Smith fighting Neo, and you just look at, it might look stunning at the first time. If you watch it a few times, it's quite lazy and slow, and it almost makes a mockery of the original fights between Neo and Morpheus. And I really wish they had not done that. And a lot of people have said that, there is a lot of mockery of the original characters and stuff, they tried to redo stuff, and it just pales in comparison, or just kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth. Obviously, a lot of people have said the coherency between the new story. I can see where they're going, because it doesn't feel like a Matrix movie, even though the world has evolved 50 years. But from a viewer perspective, it's only been 10 or 15 years since the last Matrix, or that is. A lot of people say obviously the visual effects are cool, but again, they were so groundbreaking at the time with Trinity running up the wall and stuff like that they try and do a few bits where one of them's jumping off some signs of that, but it just didn't look right. I really wish they had done something new. And I say, this is where if you would have had a team of 6 people, so to speak, on one of the ships, and they all, one has the ability he has to open portholes, but when one of them's a weapon expert, and one of them's good at this, and one of them's good at that, one of them is maybe a martial artist and can fly around and do, or maybe capoeira, maybe let's move it on, little bits like that would have made it actually a lot better and brought a little bit of a side angle in, but that is where we are. And I can understand why it was a box office bomb. Unfortunately, this is the problem when you don't have, when you allow somebody to do something, and the studios have a big influence in it of allowing stuff like this. This taters part of the trilogy. I think people always say, and this is the stuff, and it basically comes down to, did we need a 4th Matrix movie? And the answer, 99.9% people would be no. We had the original trilogy. They did what they did. Leave the characters alone. They're dead. They didn't fail. It's not a perfect ending, but it's an ending for that cycle. Start something new, and it probably would be better. But Okay, so that is the end. I can theorise more and throw stuff at you know, but that was the $50 million bomb that is The Matrix Resurrection. Please let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. Obviously, this is a new series. Please let me know what you think and feel. And this maybe I might open this up as maybe a little bit of a live stream discussion. Maybe I might have some, you know, I am toiling with the idea of future movies. Maybe there's someone for and I'll be for, or they'll be for and I'll be against, and something like that. And we'll just hash stuff out. Who knows? But this has been episode 1 of Box Office Bombs. Hope you enjoyed this video and in this new series. Obviously, let me know in the comments as well if there's any future movies that you think. I have a few lined up, but any recommendations is always preferred. I've been Cypher Sigma Screen Time, and I shall see you in the next one.